Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Nadia Ulfa. I'm a graduate student from Mathematics Education Department in Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. In this occasion, I will present my paper about analysis of learning obstacle and the concept of composition function in online learning from the perspective of ABS-26 error categories. Let's start to the introduction. The determination of coronavirus has become a global pandemic that has disrupted teaching and learning activities in schools. Online learning is used as a solution during this COVID-19 pandemic so that the obstacle felt by students between direct learning and indirect learning will be different. To identify learning obstacles, one can start by analyzing the difficulties and errors. ABS categories, that is ARIT for AE, EQS, and Math, are an error category that is specially arranged in the algebraic field. However, there are still many difficulties in this area. The composition function is one of the materials included in the scope of algebra. Therefore, it is important to conduct a study that analyzes in depth about the learning obstacle and the concept of composition function in online learning from the perspective of ABS error categories. The second is method. This study used a qualitative research method with a case study approach. The participants in this study were 70 students, aged around 14 to 15 years who came from one of the high school in Sumedang. The researcher used the help of the Google Classroom application to obtain test data related to the concept of composition function and used the help of the WhatsApp and Zoom meeting application as a means to obtain student interview data. This is the result and discussion. The first is learning obstacle analysis is reviewed based on the ARIT error categories. The first is related operation. Subcategory is wrong in performing subtraction operation on two numbers. And the second is wrong in performing addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division operation on algebraic expression. Based on the interview, students still assume that what is presented in the written test is the correct answer. Even when researchers try to ask similar problems, students still make mistakes when operating it. So the type of learning obstacle is conceptual ontogenic obstacle. And the second is related properties. The subcategory is wrong in applying addition or multiplication inverse in solving an algebraic equation. And the type of learning obstacle is conceptual ontogenic obstacle. The second is learning obstacle analysis is reviewed based on the FAR error category. That is about rules of literal symbols. The subcategory is misinterpreting a literal symbol as a container that can be retrieved and replaced, or variable as a placeholder. And the second is it is wrong to use literal symbols as functional relationships, either input or as function values, or variables as varying quantities. Based on the interview data, students still assume that their works on the written test is the correct. So the type of learning obstacle for the first case is conceptual ontogenic obstacle, and the second is instrumental ontogenic obstacle. And then this is a learning obstacle analysis is referred based on the AE error categories. AE is algebraic expression. So the first is about parsing obstacle. This is errors caused by a conflicting mindset between algebraic language and natural language. That is student assume that in the F composition G, the first function to be performed is the function F, and then the function G, vice versa. The type of learning obstacle is instrumental ontogenic obstacle. And for 3 minus 2x equal 1x, this is a conceptual ontogenic obstacle. And the second is expected answer. Subcategory is errors caused by wrong expectation in producing numerical answer. The type of learning obstacle is conceptual ontogenic obstacle. And the third is lack of gestalt. Error that occur because of ignoring the significance of positive and negative sign in algebraic expression. And the type of learning obstacle is conceptual ontogenic obstacle and didactical obstacle. And this is a learning video analysis. The advantage of using learning videos is first, students can access them easily if they want to repeat the learning material. The second is for students who are unable to attend the set schedule. Students can still get material by access the video on YouTube. And the last is for students who experience network-related obstacles during learning use Google Meet, so that sometimes the explanation given by the teacher is not complete. This can be overcome with videos on YouTube. And this advantage of using learning videos, first is some students complain that they cannot access the video due to the limited internet quota. And the second is the interaction between teacher and students is not facilitated, so that if there are students who do not understand certain sub materials, students are rather difficult to ask directly to the teacher. And the last is learning using these learning videos often doesn't support the student-centered approach, so that students do not have enough space to build their independent thinking. And this is one of such book analysis. It can be seen that there is a discrepancy between the description and the mathematical symbols used, where this description states that two functions f and g can be composed into a composition function if the range of function g is a subset of the domain f, or is written range g intersection df that not empty set. It is clear that this is a discrepancy in which the notion between subset and intersection of the set is very different. So this is a learning design recommendation based on learning obstacle finding. For the first is student understanding of the prerequisite material, namely subtraction operation on negative numbers, operation on numbers, and algebra, as well as understanding related to inverse properties in algebra forms that are still weak. The recommendation is use a didactic design that is specifically designed for the prerequisite material of composition function and inverse function. Composition function, such as research conducted by Vadia and Maudi Suryadi Mulyana. The second is students' understanding of the prerequisite material, namely the function material is still weak. It is recommended to use a didactic design that is specifically designed to carry out learning material function like what a CDN did. The third is students' understanding of key technical methods in the composition function concept is still incomplete. It is recommended to use a didactic design specifically designed for composition function materials. One of the design that can be used is a didactic design by Syahani. And then the presentation of the material is not in accordance with the scientific concept, namely the use of the rules for moving segments. It is recommended to introduce the scientific concept first. In introducing the scientific concept, you can use game-based learning, design activities, and the last is learning doesn't from students' independent thinking. So designing learning, design that pay attention to action situation, formulation situation, validation situation, and institutionalization situation, or didactic situation theory. So the conclusion in this study is it can be concluded that there are still many students error when solving problems on the composition function material in online learning in terms of the AVAEM error categories, but only 3 categories were found, namely ARID, VAR, and EA. From the process of extracting the findings of these errors, the researchers suspect that the emergence of a learning obstacle in the composition function concept include: first is dialectical obstacle, where the presentation of material commonly used in mathematics learning is not by the scientific concept, namely the use of the segmentation method. And the second is ontogenical obstacle, which are conceptual, where student understanding of the prerequisite material, namely operation on numbers, operation on algebra, and the concept of function is still weak, as well as ontogenical obstacle that are instrumental, where students' understanding of key technical methods in the concept of composition function is still wrong and incomplete. Okay, thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.